Chapter 1. The Plan. Teddy Watkins sat in a small room with a smile on his face. On the table was a newspaper. He read an article about Lady Aveling, a rich woman who lived in Hammer Pond Park. The article said she had many diamonds and other jewels. Her husband, Lord Aveling, had given her those gifts after their wedding. Teddy's eyes shone with a clever thought. He looked at his helper and said, "We can take them." His helper looked nervous. "It's a big house, Teddy. There will be guards everywhere." Teddy laughed softly and said, "That's why I will not go as a thief. I will go as a painter. No one will doubt a painter who loves the moonlight." Teddy was not an ordinary thief. He liked to plan carefully. He said to his helper, "We will go tomorrow night. You will bring the ropes and the bag. I will carry the painting tools. When people see me, they will think I am an artist." His helper nodded but still looked afraid. Teddy said, "Don't worry. I know how to smile like a gentleman. When they see my paints, they will believe every word." Then he took a small piece of paper and began to draw a rough plan of the house. He marked the windows, the back door, and the garden gate. "This," he said, pointing to one corner, "is where we will go in." The helper asked, "What if someone talks to you?" Teddy smiled again. "Then I will talk about art. I will say, 'I am here to paint the beauty of Hammer Pond Park under the moon.' People like big words. They will not stop me." He leaned back and said proudly, "Every job needs art. Even stealing can be an art if you are clever." The helper said softly, "You talk like a teacher, Teddy." Teddy laughed and said, "Yes, I teach the lesson of smart work. They packed everything before night." Teddy checked the ropes, brushes, and paints. He said, "Tomorrow, when the moon is full, we start. You will wait near the gate. If I give one whistle, it means danger. If I give two, it means come fast." The helper said, "And if you don't whistle?" Teddy. I smiled and said, "Then I am already inside." He closed the newspaper and folded the plan. "We will not fail this time," he said in a confident voice. Before sleeping, Teddy stood near the window and looked at the sky. He whispered to himself, "People think I am just a man with paint, but tomorrow night I will paint my richest picture." His helper looked at him quietly. He did not understand half of Teddy's fancy words, but he trusted his master. In Teddy's eyes, there was excitement and pride. For him, stealing was not only for money, it was a game of mind. He liked to trick people with his cleverness. He enjoyed walking in danger and still smiling like a guest. That was his style. That was Teddy Watkins, the man who called his crimes art. Chapter 2. The Painter. Next evening, Teddy Watkins got ready for his plan. He wore simple clothes and carried a box of paints and brushes. His face looked calm, just like a real artist. His helper followed him with a small bag. "Remember," Teddy said quietly, "you will wait near the road. No talking, no moving, unless I give the signal." The helper nodded. Teddy smiled and added, "If anyone asks who I am, you say I'm painting the house for a magazine picture." The helper whispered, But what if someone asks me more? Teddy said, Then you act foolish. People believe fools more than liars. When they reached near the big gate of Hammer Pond Park, Teddy stopped. A guard was standing there. Teddy walked up with confidence. Good evening, he said politely. I am an artist. I want to paint this fine house in the moonlight. The guard looked at him carefully. At night? He asked. Teddy smiled. Yes, sir. Night gives beauty to buildings. The moonlight makes art. The guard didn't really understand, but he liked Teddy's soft way of speaking. All right, he said slowly. But stay on this side. Don't go near the main door. Teddy nodded. Of course, sir. I only need to see the light and the shape. The guard opened the gate, and Teddy walked in with an innocent face. Teddy set up his easel near the garden path. He opened his paint box and started moving his brushes here and there, though he was not really painting anything. He just wanted to look busy. From a distance, he could see the lights of the house and people walking inside. He whispered to himself, Perfect. They think I'm an artist. No one will suspect. He looked around quietly. He noted how many windows were open and which doors had locks. He watched where the servants went. He was careful, patient, and smart. After some time, a young servant came near and said, Sir, would you like some water? Teddy smiled kindly. Thank you, my dear boy, but no need. I'm working. The servant looked at his painting. That's beautiful, sir, he said. Teddy laughed inside because there was nothing beautiful on his canvas, only a few lines. Art is not always clear, Teddy replied. The servant nodded, thinking this was deep artist talk. When he left, Teddy said softly, People see what they want to see. Hours passed. The moon came up bright. Teddy's helper waited far from the house, hidden behind a tree. He watched for any signal. Teddy, meanwhile, was pretending to mix colors. He wanted everyone to feel safe around him. Two ladies passed by and looked at him curiously. One whispered, He must be very talented. Teddy smiled at them and said, Good evening. They smiled back and walked away. When the night grew quiet, Teddy packed his things slowly. He said softly, Now they all trust me. Tomorrow I can walk right inside this garden without question. He walked out with a polite nod to the guard. Finished already? The guard asked. Teddy answered, Yes, I got what I needed. Tomorrow I will paint again. The guard smiled. Come early then. Teddy said, I surely will. Outside the gate, his helper ran to him. How was it? He asked. Teddy said calmly, Easy. They believe me. Tomorrow, we move to the next part. The helper looked worried. But the house is big. How will you go in? Teddy said, I watched everything. I know where the jewels are kept. I saw Lady Aveling pass the hall twice. Her room is upstairs, second window from the right. The box will be on her dressing table. The helper asked, You saw it? Teddy nodded. Yes, I have eyes that see more than others." They walked away quietly through the road. Teddy laughed softly. "I told you, I'm not just a thief. I'm an artist. Tonight I painted a picture of their minds. I know what they believe, what they fear, and what they never notice. Tomorrow, I will make my final touch." The helper said nothing. He only looked at Teddy's face, glowing under the moon. Teddy felt proud. In his heart, he already saw himself holding the shining diamonds. "They call it Hammer Pond Park," he whispered, "but soon they will call it my masterpiece." He reached his small room and locked the door. He placed his fake paints and brushes on the floor. He took out a small torch, a dark cloth, and thin gloves. He checked everything twice. Then he said quietly, "Tomorrow night, at the same time." "No mistakes." The helper nodded with fear. Teddy smiled and said, "Fear is good. It keeps us awake. But don't let it stop your hands." Then he turned off the light and closed his eyes. He needed rest before his big night. In the silence, he whispered again, "The artist returns tomorrow." Chapter 3. The Strange Night. The next night came slowly. Teddy Watkins and his helper were ready. They moved quietly on the dark road toward Hammer Pond Park. Teddy whispered, "This is the night. Be calm. No sound, no fear." The helper carried a small bag with ropes and a flashlight. Teddy carried only his painting box. It looked harmless, but inside were the tools for the job. They reached the side wall of the big garden. Teddy said, "Stay here. I'll go ahead." He climbed over the short wall and moved like a shadow. His steps were soft, his eyes sharp. He went to the same place where he stood last night with his easel. The guard was not there now. The air was still. Teddy whispered, "Perfect." He took out thin strings from his pocket and tied them across the path. "These will help us know if someone comes," he said quietly. He fixed one near the bushes and one near the back door. Then he gave a small whistle. His helper came in and hid behind a tree. Teddy said, "If anyone steps on these strings, we'll hear the sound. Stay low." For a while, they waited. The house was silent. Only a small light shone from a window upstairs. Teddy pointed to it. "That's the ladies' room," he said. "The jewels are there." The helper's hands were shaking. "Are we going inside now?" he asked softly. Teddy nodded. In a few minutes, he took out thin gloves and wore them. Then he opened his painting box and removed a small, sharp tool. "This is better than a key," he said proudly. They moved near the window. Teddy worked fast but quiet. In a few seconds, the lock clicked open. He smiled. "See? Easy." But just as he was about to climb, they heard a faint sound. A soft step on the ground. Both froze. Teddy raised his hand. "Wait," he whispered. They listened. Someone was walking nearby. A few moments later, a faint snap came from the string near the path. Teddy turned quickly. "Someone's here," he whispered. "Maybe the guard." The helper looked scared. "What do we do?" Teddy thought fast. Ake eyed behind the bushes. Don't move till I say. They hid and watched. Two shapes came from the dark. They were men, but not guards. They were moving carefully, whispering to each other. One said, "This way, the window is open." Teddy's eyes widened. "They are thieves, too," he murmured. The helper looked surprised. "What? Like us?" Teddy nodded slowly. "Yes, but they are foolish. They'll ruin everything." The two men tried to open the same window. Teddy whispered angrily, "They'll get us caught." He waited a moment, then said, "Let's see what happens." One of the strangers climbed halfway inside, and suddenly a loud noise came, a crash of glass and a shout. The house lights turned on instantly. The silence broke. Dogs barked, voices shouted, and the sound of feet ran down the hall. Teddy grabbed his helper's arm. "Run!" he said. But then he stopped. A clever idea came to him. "No," he said. "We don't run. We catch them." The helper looked confused. "Catch them?" Teddy smiled. "Yes. We'll say we were walking and saw two thieves. They will believe us. Come with me." They moved quickly toward the two men, who were already trying to escape. Teddy shouted loudly, "Stop! Thieves!" His voice was clear and brave. The guards came running with lamps. They saw Teddy holding one man by the collar. "I caught them!" he shouted again. The guards grabbed the thieves and tied them up. Everyone praised Teddy. Lord Aveling himself came out in a robe and said, "Who is this brave man?" Teddy smiled politely. "Just a painter, sir. I was near the road and saw them." Lord Aveling said, "You saved our house. Please come inside." Teddy nodded humbly, hiding his smile. As they walked into the bright hall, Teddy whispered to his helper, "See? The real thief is always calm. They will thank me tonight and sleep peacefully. Tomorrow I'll finish my masterpiece." His helper said nothing. He just looked at Teddy, the painter who was also the cleverest thief of all. Chapter 4. The Two Thieves. The hall was full of noise and light. Servants ran here and there. The two real thieves were tied with ropes. Teddy stood beside them, calm and polite. Lord Aveling said, "You saved my house tonight." Teddy smiled and said softly, "Anyone would have done the same." But inside he was laughing. He had come to steal, yet now everyone was calling him a hero. A maid whispered, "He looks like a true gentleman." Another said, "He's an artist, so brave." Teddy's helper stood quietly in the corner, afraid to speak. Teddy gave him a small look that said, "Be silent." Then Lord Aveling said, "You must stay here tonight. You cannot go out at this hour. We will send you home in the morning." Teddy bowed. "Thank you, sir. That's very kind." The guards took the caught thieves away. Teddy watched them carefully. One thief shouted, "We are not the only ones." Teddy's heart jumped for a second, but he quickly said, "They must be mad." Lord Aveling nodded. Criminals always lie. Then he turned to Teddy. Please, have supper with us. Teddy agreed. He sat at the big table, pretending to be shy. He told them stories about painting and color. Everyone listened with interest. No one guessed the truth. After dinner, Lady Aveling came in wearing her jewels. They sparkled in the light. Teddy smiled and said, "Those are the most beautiful diamonds I have ever seen." She laughed kindly. "You artists love beauty, don't you?" He said, "Yes, my lady. I could look at them forever." In his heart, he already decided they would be his. Later, Lord Aveling showed him a guest room. "Sleep well," he said. "Tomorrow we'll thank you properly." Teddy said, "You are very generous." When Lord Aveling left, Teddy sat on the bed and whispered, "Now I know where everything is kept." He remembered the window he had opened before. He smiled. "Tomorrow morning, I'll be gone, and so will the jewels." Downstairs, his helper waited nervously near the gate. A guard saw him and said, "Who are you?" The helper said quickly, "I came with the artist." The guard nodded. "Ah, yes, the brave man. You are lucky to work with him." The helper smiled weakly. He was scared, but proud. His master had fooled everyone. Inside the house, Teddy looked out of the window. The moonlight touched the garden softly. He whispered, "No one can paint a scene better than this." Then he laughed quietly. "But tomorrow's picture will be even brighter, with diamonds." He closed the curtain and lay down. Soon everyone in Hammer Pond Park was asleep, thinking their hero was resting too. But Teddy Watkins was awake, planning every move for the next part of his clever game. Chapter 5. The Confusion. Morning light touched the windows of Hammer Pond Park. Birds sang, and servants began their daily work. Everyone talked about the brave painter who had caught 2 thieves. "He must be a good man," one said. "He should be rewarded," said another. In the guest room, Teddy Watkins lay still, pretending to sleep. When a servant knocked and said, "Breakfast is ready," he replied, "I will come soon." The servant left quietly, thinking the artist was tired. As soon as the door closed, Teddy got up. His eyes were bright and focused. "Now begins the real work," he whispered. He took out a small black bag from under the bed. Inside were gloves, a thin rope, and a dark cloth. He moved to the window and looked outside. The guards were far away near the gate. "Good," he said softly. "No one will come here for some time." He opened the door a little, looked around the corridor, and stepped out. The house was quiet. He walked carefully to the stairs. He remembered the way to Lady Aveling's room. Last night he had watched her go up with the jewel box in her hands. He reached the door and listened. No sound. He smiled. Perfect. He turned the handle slowly and entered. The box was there, shining under the sunlight. He opened it gently. Diamonds, necklaces, and rings glittered before him. For a moment, even Teddy stopped and admired them. "Beautiful," he whispered. "You'll soon travel with me." He placed the jewels into his small bag and closed it tight. Then he heard footsteps in the hall. He froze. Someone was coming. Quickly, he hid behind the curtain. Lady Aveling entered the room. She looked around and smiled at her reflection in the mirror. "What a quiet morning," she said to herself. Then she opened the box. Her face changed at once. "The diamonds!" she cried out. "They are gone!" Her voice was loud and full of fear. Servants ran in at once. Lord Aveling followed, half-dressed. "What happened?" he shouted. "My jewels," she said. "They are gone." Teddy stood behind the curtain, holding his breath. His heart beat fast, but his face stayed calm. The servants searched the room wildly. "Maybe the thief ran outside," one said. "Call the guards," shouted another. Lord Aveling said, "But how could this happen? The painter was here. He would have seen something." At that moment, Teddy stepped out slowly, pretending to look sleepy. "What is all this noise?" he asked. Everyone turned toward him. Lady Aveling said, "Someone has stolen my jewels." Teddy opened his eyes wide. "That's terrible," he said. "I heard nothing. I was asleep." Lord Aveling said, "You must help us again, Mr. Artist." Teddy nodded. "Of course, sir. I'll do my best." Inside, he almost laughed. He was standing in the middle of the search with the jewels hidden in his own bag. Guards ran to the garden. They searched the walls, the windows, and the road outside. Teddy walked around calmly, asking questions like a real helper. "Did you see anyone near the gate?" he asked. The guard said, "No, sir. All quiet." Teddy said, "Strange. The thief must be very clever." The guard nodded, never guessing who he was talking to. After an hour, no one found anything. Lord Aveling said sadly, "They are gone forever." Teddy said kindly, "Do not lose hope. Maybe they were taken by mistake. You will get them back." Lady Aveling thanked him with tears in her eyes. "You are very kind," she said. Teddy smiled softly. "It's my duty, my lady." Later, when everyone was busy talking, Teddy walked toward the front door. No one stopped him. They all believed he was part of the family now. At the gate, his helper waited nervously. Teddy gave a small signal. The helper followed him down the road. When they reached a safe place, Teddy opened the bag and showed the shining jewels. The helper gasped. "You really did it," Teddy said proudly. "Of course. The trick was not in breaking doors. The trick was in breaking trust." He looked back once at the faraway house and smiled. "They will spend the day thanking me," he said quietly, "while I spend it counting diamonds." He walked faster down the road, his heart full of victory. He had fooled everyone, the guards, the servants, and even the rich lord himself. The confusion at Hammer Pond Park was only beginning, but Teddy Watkins was already miles away, the clever thief who became a hero. Chapter 6. The Guest. By afternoon, Hammer Pond Park was still in confusion. Servants ran everywhere, and guards searched every corner again. Lord Aveling was angry but confused. "How could the thief enter when we had guards and a hero in the house?" he asked. No one had an answer. Lady Aveling sat sadly in her chair. "The jewels were my wedding gift," she whispered. Now they are gone forever. Everyone felt sorry for her. Outside the house, Teddy Watkins and his helper were already miles away. They walked along a small road lined with trees. Teddy smiled as he looked at the small black bag in his hand. So light, yet worth a fortune, he said softly. His helper looked back again and again, afraid someone might be following. Will they find us? He asked. Teddy laughed. No, they think I am their friend. By the time they doubt me, I'll be far away. They stopped under a tree. Teddy opened the bag for a moment. The diamonds sparkled in the sunlight. His eyes filled with pride. Look at this beauty, he said. People keep them locked in boxes, but I bring them out into the light. His helper said, You are brave, Teddy. But now what? Where will we go? Teddy said calmly, First we'll rest. Then we'll go to the next town. I know a man there who can help sell these quietly. They walked again until they found a small inn. Teddy entered with a gentle smile and said to the owner, We are travelers. May we stay for a night? The owner nodded and gave them a small room upstairs. When the door closed, Teddy sat down and said, We'll stay here till evening. By morning, no one will remember the name of the brave painter at Hammer Pond Park. Lord Aveling tried to understand what had happened. Search again, he told the guards. Ask every traveler if they saw someone suspicious. One of the servants said, Sir, the painter left quietly before lunch. Lord Aveling turned quickly. He left? The servant nodded. Yes, he said he would come back tomorrow. Lord Aveling's face turned pale. He won't, he said. He was the thief. They sent riders on horses to follow every road. But Teddy was clever. He had changed his coat and hat, and he looked like a simple man walking with a friend. The guards passed him once without even noticing. Teddy smiled as they went by. People see what they believe, he whispered. They still think I'm a hero. Evening came. At the inn, Teddy ordered some food. The helper was still worried. Teddy, what if they find us tomorrow? Teddy said calmly. Then we'll be gone by dawn. Stop thinking like a scared boy. Think like an artist. Every move must be quiet and beautiful. The helper nodded, though he didn't really understand Teddy's strange way of talking. Later, Teddy took out one diamond and held it up to the lamp. Do you know what this is? He asked. The helper said, A stone. Teddy smiled. No, it's a story. A story of a clever man who fooled everyone. He laughed softly. That man is me. Then he wrapped the jewels again and hid them inside the pillow. At the same time, Lord Aveling and Lady Aveling sat together in sadness. I trusted that man, Lord Aveling said bitterly. He ate at our table. He slept under our roof. Lady Aveling said, He looked kind. His eyes were calm. Lord Aveling said, That calm was the mask of a thief. He called the guard. Tomorrow send his picture to every town. I want him caught. But Teddy was far ahead of them. That night, When everyone slept at the inn, he woke his helper. "Get up," he said quietly. "We leave now." The helper rubbed his eyes. "Now?" Teddy nodded. "Yes. Never stay in one place too long. That's how fools are caught." They packed quickly and left through the back door. As they walked into the silent night, Teddy said, "They gave me food, they called me a hero, and they trusted me. I painted my best picture in their minds. They saw what I wanted them to see." He laughed softly. "And tomorrow, when they wake, I'll already be a story." Chapter 7. The Empty Room. Morning came to the little inn where Teddy and his helper had stayed. The owner knocked on their door to bring breakfast. No one answered. He knocked again. Still no sound. After some time, he opened the door slightly and looked inside. The beds were empty. The bags were gone. On the table lay a few coins for the night's stay. The owner smiled. "Nice guests," he thought. "They left early." He didn't know the truth. Far away, Lord Avaling's men were still searching every road. They showed a sketch of Teddy's face to travelers and shopkeepers. "Did you see this man?" they asked. Most people shook their heads. Some said, "He looks like an artist." But no one knew where he was. Lord Aveling grew angrier. "He fooled us all," he said. "He made us believe he was good. I want him caught at any cost." Meanwhile, Teddy and his helper walked through a quiet countryside road. Teddy said, "They'll never find us. I changed my name, my coat, my voice. To them, I am gone." The helper said, "You always win, Teddy." Teddy smiled proudly. "Because I plan. The world believes what I want it to believe." He looked at the morning sun and whispered, "Freedom always looks better when it shines." By afternoon, they reached a small town. Teddy entered a jewelry shop and said politely, "Good morning, sir. I am selling some stones from my old collection." The shopkeeper examined them with surprise. "Fine pieces," he said. Teddy smiled. "Yes, they belong to my late aunt. I want to sell them quietly." The shopkeeper agreed and paid him cash. Teddy walked out, feeling victorious. "Half sold," he said. "The rest we'll sell later." At Hammer Pond Park, Lady Aveling found a small paper left near the guest room bed. It said only one line, "A beautiful night, thank you." She showed it to her husband. He crushed it in anger. "He's laughing at us," he said. "But one day he'll make a mistake." Lady Aveling looked outside the window sadly. "He seemed kind," she whispered. "Perhaps, as that was his best lie." Evening came. Teddy and his helper sat by a river. The money bag lay between them. The helper said, "You could live rich forever now." Teddy said calmly, "Maybe. But life is no fun without danger. Every job is a new picture, and I am still painting." He smiled in the fading light. His clever mind was already thinking of the next trick, the next plan. Back at Hammer Pond Park, the police returned empty-handed. Lord Aveling said, "He's cleverer than all of us." Lady Aveling said quietly, "Then let us forget him." But deep inside, she knew the memory of that charming artist would never really go away, and somewhere, miles away, Teddy Watkins laughed softly to himself. "They'll remember the painter," he said, "but they'll never know the thief." Chapter 8. The Clever Escape. Days passed. The name Teddy Watkins was now known in every nearby town. Newspapers wrote, "The clever painter who fooled the rich." People laughed and talked about him in tea shops and markets. Some said he was bad. Others called him brave. But no one could find him. His face was too common, his voice too soft, and his lies too perfect. In a small city far from Hammer Pond Park, Teddy lived in a quiet street under a false name. He had cut his hair shorter and grown a little beard. His helper still stayed with him, though he always looked worried. One morning the helper said, "Teddy, we should stop now. We have money. We can live peacefully." Teddy laughed. "Peace is for men who are tired. I'm not tired yet." The helper sighed. "But someday you'll be caught." Teddy smiled calmly. "Maybe, but not today." That afternoon, 2 men in black coats entered the town. They were police from Hammer Pond. They went from door to door asking questions. "We are looking for an artist who came here last week," one of them said. A shopkeeper replied, "Yes, there was a man who sold some jewels." The officers looked at each other. "Where did he go?" The shopkeeper pointed down the road. "He lives near the river." When Teddy returned home, the helper was pacing nervously. "2 men asked about you," he said in fear. Teddy sat down calmly. "I was expecting this," he said. "Pack everything. We leave before sunset." He took out a small box from the table. Inside was a little money, a few jewels, and a piece of folded paper. On the paper was a sketch of Hammer Pond Park. He smiled as he looked at it. "My greatest work," he said. Then he burned it in the lamp flame. As they prepared to leave, footsteps sounded outside. Teddy looked through the window and saw 2 shadows near the gate. "They're here already," he whispered. The helper turned pale. "What do we do?" Teddy thought for a moment, then said, "Through the back door. Quietly." They moved fast, carrying only a knee bag. Outside, a narrow path led to the river. Teddy said, "Follow me." The sound of voices grew louder behind them. "He's inside. Surround the house." Teddy and his helper reached the riverbank. A small boat was tied there. Teddy smiled. "I paid for this yesterday," he said. "Always plan ahead." They jumped in and pushed the boat away. The current was slow but steady. From behind came shouts and lights. "There he is! Stop!" But the boat had already drifted into the fog. Teddy laughed softly. "Goodbye, Hammer Pond." They floated for hours until the lights disappeared. The helper asked, "Where will we go now?" Teddy said, "To another country. Maybe France or Spain. New faces, new names, new stories." The helper looked tired. "And then?" Teddy looked at the stars and said, "Then we start again. There's always another picture to paint." Next morning, in the nearby town, people talked again. Some said the thief had escaped by train. Others said by horse, but no one guessed the river. The police found only his empty room, a burned paper, and a few coins on the table. Lord Aveling received the report and sighed. "He's gone," he said. Lady Aveling said quietly, "Let him go. Maybe one day he will learn that cleverness without honesty ends in emptiness." Far away, Teddy and his helper reached another city. They walked through a busy market. People were loud and cheerful. No one knew their faces. Teddy bought 2 cups of tea and said, "See? No one remembers the painter now." The helper said, "But you'll always be the man who fooled the rich." Teddy smiled proudly. "Maybe. But more than that, I am the man who could become anyone." That night, Teddy stood alone by the window of a small room. The bag of jewels lay on the table beside him. He looked at his reflection and said softly, "A painter, a hero, a thief, all the same man. And the world never saw the difference." He laughed quietly, but his laugh sounded lonely. For the first time, he wondered if victory without peace really felt like winning. He turned away from the window and whispered, "Perhaps one day I'll paint for real." He closed his eyes, thinking of all the faces he had fooled. Then he blew out the lamp. The room fell dark. Outside, the river moved slowly under the moon, carrying away the last sound of his quiet laughter. And so ended the story of Teddy Watkins, the clever painter who became a legend, the thief who turned life into art, and the man who escaped every time but never escaped himself.